Hello everybody, my name is Daniel. I've been running teacher training since about 2007. I think I've done about over 100 so far and graduated around 1,000 students. And I thought it'd be interesting and helpful to put together a list of common questions that students ask. So I reached out to some of the community and some of my prior students to generate some questions, and I think I've got some good ones here I'm going to try and answer for you. Currently I'm running Karma Teachers yoga training in Vancouver, as well as my own training up on Texada Island. So let's get into it. Here's some questions students have asked over the years. What kind of yoga will I learn? It's a great question. So yoga is a huge topic. There's karma yoga, there is bhakti yoga, there's the yoga of chanting. But in this training you'd be learning hatha yoga or hatha yoga, and that is the yoga of using the body and the breath. Basically postural yoga, the yoga that most of us are familiar with worldwide now. So that type of yoga, there are subcomponents of that type of yoga. There's restorative yoga, there's yin yoga, and there's active yoga. So the bulk of the course would be learning how to practice and teach an active form of yoga using some alignment and biomechanics. And side dishes would be yin, restorative, maybe yoga nidra and meditation as well. Question number 2, where is it? Location and transportation. In Vancouver here, we've got a lovely little studio space in the Sylvia Hotel. So we're actually renting space there. We have a maximum of about 8 students, so it's a small room, but very comfortable, and it's right beside English Bay, so you can walk out for lunch and look around and have lunch out there or sit on the beach in the summertime. And there's parking downstairs as well, so it's very accessible. What's the schedule like? Question number 3. So we'll start this is a weekend part-time course with 2 evening sessions during the week of 2 hours each, and then relatively long days on the weekend. Saturday and Sunday are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We'll have a lunch break, of course, and a morning break and an afternoon break. And we start with asana practice in the morning. We look at the biomechanics and the structure of the poses in the mornings as well, looking at history, philosophy, anatomy, teaching practice, and a little bit of therapeutic Thai massage and alignment adjusts in the afternoon. So it's a pretty full day, but the components are broken down through the day with lots of opportunities to practice teach as well. Question number 4, will I learn to teach a yoga class? And absolutely, in this course, our aims are to get the students towards, at the end of the program, teaching a practicum class to the rest of the students of about 45 minutes to 1 hour. So you're learning really how to put a class together and then how to teach it effectively with clarity, with good observation. So that is really the objective right from the get-go. And there's also a written test at the end to test your knowledge. So you will definitely be able, as long as you've got the capacity to do it, you'll be able to teach a yoga class when you finish the program. Question number 5, how much experience do I need to join a course like this? Most students that I've had in my courses have been practicing at studios, a variety of studios and a variety of different kinds of yoga. And what I've seen is there's an ad hoc understanding of what postural yoga is and how it works. So I start everybody really at the basics and then build up from there. I would say your experience isn't really as important as your ability to be attentive and have the energy to actually practice. Now, we're not doing extremely difficult poses. We're doing, I would say, beginner to intermediate poses, but there is some physical kind of vibrancy that's necessary to do that over a weekend. So if you feel that you have that and you have a little bit of experience or even not a lot, you can still learn how to practice yoga, and then from there you would learn how to teach yoga. And everyone learns that at a slightly different rate. I mentioned already the difficulty level, so we will get in the course into some advanced poses. We'll be looking at things like handstand and headstand, but these are optional and they're not right for everybody, of course, depending on your abilities and your age and a lot of different things. So the bulk there would be more accessible poses for the public. That's what you'd be teaching as well. Question number 7, am I too old? I'm in my mid-50s, almost late 50s now actually, and I've been practicing for quite a while. I've had students as young as 19 years old and as old as about 68 or 70. Again, it's a lot more dependent on how much energy you have to participate. One thing to consider is if you can come from a standing position and get down to the floor and come back up without too much difficulty, that will indicate a lot of the ability to actually do the postures, because the standing postures are grouped. They're not particularly difficult, but getting to the floor and getting back up is something that as a yoga teacher you'll probably need to be able to do. So it's not so much age as it is the ability to do that. Again, attentiveness and good diet and all that stuff, so that you're really present. What kind of reading or preparation should I do beforehand? There's so many yoga books that have been written, really literally hundreds or thousands of them. But James Malleson's book on the history of postural yoga is an excellent resource. The course manual itself, you can request that. You can read through that before the course. That'll prep you really well. And there's a few other recorded information and some other books, but primarily Malleson's book, possibly a copy of the Upanishads. Some of the ancient philosophies of the Indian tradition can be very helpful as well as a kind of an introduction to yoga philosophy and history. Certification, what's required, testing, what happens if I fail. So the certification for this course, it's registered with Yoga Alliance, and then when you pass the course, there'll be a written test, as I mentioned earlier, at the end, as well as a practicum that you'll teach to the students, the rest of the students in the class. If you pass both of those, you will be certified with our studio, with Karma Teachers, to be a Hatha yoga teacher. Now, if for some reason you're not prepared to teach that course, or that class rather, at the end of the course, then there's always an opportunity to resubmit a video later and still get certified. So it's not the end of the road if you find that you're not really prepared at the end of the training. You can still submit a video again. There'll be a cost involved there, but not a huge one, and you'll be able to still certify afterwards. So I've only had a couple of people over the years that have actually not completed the course, and it was mostly they felt it was more than they could do, so they made the decision to just take it really more as a kind of a self-development course rather than looking at actually certifying. And students are welcome to do that. You don't have to look at it as a path to teaching, although it is primarily designed to get people ready to teach. There's a lot of information there about self-practice and self-practice development that can be very helpful. The number of students. We have I think a minimum of 4 and a maximum of about 8 within the small room we're using. And at my home studio, the one I'll be running one last course, I've got a maximum of 6. So the class size is quite small, which is nice. Everyone gets a chance to be heard and listened to, and it gives me an opportunity to watch everybody's practice and help. So I enjoy the small groups. Belief systems, religion. Is the course, do I have to believe something in order to do this course? The answer is no. I look at this as a secular yoga teacher training, meaning that whatever beliefs you may have about the value of life or afterlife or religion that you hold is entirely up to you. The practice of yoga may help to clarify and understand, help clarify your understanding of what you already believe, or it may expand what you may think about life. But I present the history and philosophy from a historical perspective, and my own personal look at this is more from a state of curiosity and interest rather than a particular philosophy. What are the components of the course? Number 13. So Yoga Alliance lays out components of practice methods, teaching methods, anatomy, lifestyle and ethics, philosophy, like that. And so we cover those within the course. And in general, the main course would be, as I mentioned earlier, learning how to articulate and teach an active yoga class effectively, yin and restorative yoga, and rehabilitative yoga, meaning working with people with injuries, would be side dishes here just because of the time. And anatomy and philosophy, again, would be sort of smaller components. So the main course here would be really learning how to practice yoga and learning how to teach it well. And number 14, what about continuing education or further training? We will be offering 300-hour courses as well. So Yoga Alliance has a 500-hour designation where you can take an initial 200-hour course and then come back at some time in the future and take more training, a longer training, 300 hours, and that would equal a 500-hour full course. So you'd be then registered with Yoga Alliance as a 500-hour teacher. So there's a 200-hour designation, and there's a 500-hour designation. And whatever's in that 300-hour really depends on the school that you're going to. Some schools will focus on a certain methodology. Some schools at the 300-hour level will be more broad. Some would be focused, say, more on meditation. So it really depends on the school you're returning to. If you return back to our school, it would be an amplification and an expansion of the prior understanding. So we'd be looking at more yin, more restorative, more styles of poses, more poses, deeper philosophy, more business, working online, this kind of stuff. So really an expansion of the 200-hour program. So I hope that helps, and I'd love to see you in the course or any course that you're interested in taking. I would just suggest ask as many questions as you can, figure out who's in the faculty, what their approach is, and talk to them if you can. And if you have any questions, you can always email us at Karma Teachers. Thanks for listening.